Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings. Isaiah 58:12, NIV. Welcome to Outreach Connection, focusing on topics and issues that reach our communities with the love and power of Jesus Christ.
Welcome again, my friends, to another great adventure in the Outreach Connection. I'm Dr. Peppers, shaking the salt. I loved that our opening scripture fit perfectly our guest, because who else to build the walls than one with Habitat for Humanity? And who better to be with Habitat than a man that's also on fire for the Lord? So when we're building the walls, if the walls be built on a solid rock, we know what Scripture tells us about that. So with me today is Pastor Bob.
How do you do?
How to do? I've had you before and would love to have you some more.
Well, thank you.
You are amazing because you go all over the place building, and yet you still have your ministry to take care of too.
Yes, ma'am.
You ever feel like a juggler where you're just like
wards off boredom. I've often said that my ministry is kind of an exercise in the useful application of attention deficit disorder.
I love it. I love it. Do you think you are ADHD?
Yeah, I am, in fact.
I am too, in fact. So the thing is, whatever we are given to done, you know, when Scripture says do it with the joy of the Lord,
right,
you have to think, okay, I know I didn't ask for this, but it's fun, whatever we're doing. So
put your hyperness to work.
That's right, your hyperness to work. That's what we're going to do today.
That's right.
And if you can find about 40, 50 other people to be hyper with you, you can have a house built in how long?
Absolutely. It won't take very long in some cases.
Oh, well, let's start out with here in this area, because you are a Quincy man.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I am the pastor of Union United Methodist Church here in town, and a member of the board of Habitat for Humanity. I've been with Habitat for, about 5 years or so, a little more. Our church the churches have been involved, of course, in Habitat from the get-go, both locally and nationally. But actually, our particular congregation was the first one to sponsor a Habitat home.
Was it really?
And just recently, another church here in town, Union Congregational Church, sponsored a house. But people from many different churches have participated in all the builds.
Good. Good.
And we've done them both here in town and in the county. We've been able to move out into the county in large part through a cooperative arrangement with Thrivent Services, which is financial services of the Lutheran Church.
Wonderful.
And they have funded 3 builds out in the county.
So you mean people of God can come together and not talk about denominational differences?
Well, I won't say it never happens, but they really don't care about it much, no.
Friendly conversation, that's right.
That's right.
And it probably does make for good conversation.
Yeah.
But now, one of the things that I am just amazed, because I have not known this, and I've actually worked on a house.
Yes.
They wouldn't let me do the work. All I could do was hand things, and I was like a gopher.
Well,
but that's all right. I made fun of
we need gophers aplenty.
That's right. Kept you from having to come down the ladder.
Yep.
I did not realize some of the criteria. How does one family or person or people get preference over another?
Right. Well, one of the things that's important to keep in mind is that Habitat does not give houses away.
You don't?
No, we don't.
You mean I can't just call you up and say, where can I get a free house?
No, sorry. If you have that number, I'd like to have it. But no, the arrangement is that we will provide a house at a very low cost, because virtually all of the labor is donated. There is some we often have to contract for. And often the property is donated. And a fair amount of the materials are donated through various companies. Lowe's and Home Depot and others are very generous with us about this.
Well, Habitat's gotten a good name.
They do. They have an excellent
budget,
name.
and it's all out on display if anybody wants to see it.
They're very transparent about that. So this greatly lowers the price of the home. And what we then do is we set up a mortgage arrangement with them, and usually it's a 20-year mortgage with no interest. So it's an interest-free mortgage on a house that is priced far below what one that would, have the same level of quality that was just bought on the open market.
Would you say mostly it's less than half of what more than that?
Close to that, and a third to a half. It kind of depends on some various factors, but it's a really good deal.
Yes, yes.
The other thing we do require is that the people who are going to move into the home put in what we call sweat equity. That is, they have to help build the home. That creates a greater sense of ownership and respect for the property that they're going to be the stewards of after this. And it also just, a lot of them very much enjoy doing that.
Sure.
Now, allowances can be made if someone is physically disabled in some respect, or maybe has limited abilities in that regard. Often family members will step in, or friends, or something like that. So there are ways we can work with that. We're not rigid about it, but we do expect people to come across with some effort of their own.
And they could even be there, and like we talked about before we came on air, they could do things perhaps like even handing sandwiches out.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
One of the other things that we require of our families is that they go through the Financial Peace University program, Dave Ramsey's program.
Dave Ramsey's great.
It's not necessarily that we assume these people can't manage their finances, but the course is very helpful, and people who do a good job with their finances can often pick up on some very useful tips and all that. We cover the tuition of that. We're not requiring them to pay for that, but we do require that they go through the program and receive a certificate.
And let's just say, if anybody's watching right now and you haven't even heard of Dave Ramsey or the financial program that he does, everybody can use this, but it's based scripturally.
Yes.
And it's also very helpful whether you have this much, or nothing.
Yeah.
And so I think anybody could benefit from that. So you're giving them all of the opportunities in advance. Habitat didn't start out with that, did it?
No, that's something that we've added on.
Learned it along the way.
And we've had people who, good-hearted, well-meaning people, but often they didn't have the financial acumen and the tools to really keep on, because they are required to be able to pay the mortgage and the taxes and the general upkeep that any homeowner would be expected to do.
So they either have to have some kind of a part-time job, some kind of a small pension benefit, or whatever.
They have to be employed. They
do have to be employed.
Well, they do have to have income.
Okay.
The employment, again, I suppose in some cases with some people be on disability, that might be, but it would have to be sufficient income
to pay whatever the low mortgage is.
Exactly.
Are we talking $100 a month?
Oh,
200, 300?
Probably 200 is not unusual. Usually you're talking what people have been paying, or maybe a little less than what they've been paying in rent for something that's nowhere near the same quality.
Right. No, that's wonderful.
But they also have to insure it.
Sure.
And they're responsible for the insuring of the property. Their credit has to be decent. It doesn't necessarily have to be stellar, but they have to have a decent credit rating and a fairly good track record to give us reason to believe they're going to be able to perform their part of the bargain, of the covenant. And then, anyone who's interested in finding out about that, we have information. We have a website.
Let's go ahead and give that out, too, because if somebody's watching, and this is one of the main reasons Bob wanted to be on today, you're looking for
We are looking right now, The reality is that meeting all these qualifications is not necessarily easy. There are a lot of people we know are in need, but our resources are obviously not unlimited, and so we want to work with people that we believe will be able to help essentially put money back into the program so that we can then build more houses in the future.
Pass it on.
This is self-financing.
That's good. That's good.
And the website is www.QuincyAreaHabitatForHumanity.org.
Very good, and you weren't even looking. It's on the screen there.
Big honkin' long title on there. But
now, what if they just don't have access to a website?
There is a number that they can call. It's primarily for volunteers, but if they're curious, we'll get it to the right person. And we do have that number. I can't recall the number right offhand.
There it is, 217-223-4224.
That'll do it. And they'll get you to the right person.
And you can look in the white pages.
Exactly, exactly. And we're interested. If people are interested, we'll be happy to talk with them, work with them, and see what's possible.
And if kids, one of the big things in schools today, as a retired public educator, one of the big issues is that kids that are given service and quality things to do, and they feel like they're helping.
Oh, exactly.
So why not, if there's somebody watching, I'm hoping that there would be shop teachers.
Yeah.
And that would be wonderful to bring their class.
People like that have often participated in habitat projects, and we have a lot of people like that. We have retired contractors.
Sure.
And got a lot of people just to become handy around the home themselves and knowledgeable. You know, I wouldn't begin to claim to be any kind of expert, but I can swing a hammer without crushing my thumb more than 1 out of 3 times I swing it. There's stuff to be done. Some of the things that are required that we have to make sure are according to code are done professionally,
like
the plumbing and the electrical. The local union is very, very good about that. Has been very helpful.
Excellent.
Donates a tremendous amount of time.
Great.
So everything we do is up to code.
There you go.
And you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, now, so you've said that these were the criteria. They have to be employed or have a source of income. They have to, of course, be willing to be there, help out a little bit, put in some of the sweat equity.
We're looking for families.
And families. Now, this is, I didn't know this one, so explain that to me.
Well, we're trying to get, as it were, the maximum bang for the buck here. And so we're trying to, house families primarily.
As opposed to, say, an individual.
A single individual or something like that, And we've also found that creates even a greater sense of investment, emotional as well as financial, in the upkeep and proper maintenance of the home. Once in a blue moon, we have someone that doesn't honor that covenant, and there have been occasions where we've had to repo some stuff.
But that's rare.
That's rare. It is rare, but partly to keep our reputation and respect for the stuff. We're not going to let people just kind of get away with murder on it.
No, you can't. So family, it doesn't matter the size, but probably again, if it's say a single mom who's employed but has 3 or 4 children and she's done well with her rent in the past, but she's looking to cut the costs, and now
we have people just like that. We have people just like that we've helped, and the homes themselves are they're not cookie cutter kind of things. They are to some degree designed and built with that particular family in mind.
So you find the family first and then build the house for it? Oh, that's amazing.
And we try to, there are a few things we can do to just kind of, some aesthetic things we can do to make it feel just a little more like it's their place as opposed to just a place.
Like what?
Oh, color of things.
Oh, they get to choose.
Nice. Certain kinds of paneling. Certain aspects of cabinetry and things like that we have a little bit of leeway on in terms of styles we can use.
Choice of in-ground pool and hot tub.
Right.
While we're on
servants' quarters and things like that.
While we're on that subject too, one of the interesting things you told me before we began is that you usually, or I don't know that you ever have done garages.
Yeah, we don't build garages. We have done carports.
Okay.
But Habitat's attitude is that a garage does cost a chunk of money. And we try to have set up so that if someone wants to add that on later, they're able to do that. The design will accommodate that. But we're into housing people rather than vehicles. But carports we've done, and often we'll even have an outbuilding, a storage shed or something like that.
And I thought you were going to say an outhouse.
Well,
no.
We have gotten past that point.
I'm glad to hear that.
We have actual porcelain fixtures, and the water runs.
No, that's hilarious.
In and out.
Have you ever had anybody that once they were started, for whatever reason, have then reneged on it or have not?
Yeah, there have been
What
some
do
that
you do?
just couldn't do. Well, and sometimes it's a case of, their situations change and they just can't keep. We will work very hard with someone who's going through a rough patch, and we're not going to just say, oh, well, you missed a payment, you're out.
Right.
We work very hard with that. We've even kind of on at least one occasion I know have extended a mortgage and things, because we consider these people very good risks. But we had a family that we housed recently that while the house was in process, the economy tanked, and the husband lost his job.
Wow.
It's just laid off with a bunch of people,
Sure.
so it was not anything that was his fault, and it took a while for them to find new employment. And so we kind of stretched out the building phase.
Good.
We didn't say, oh, well, you can't pay, we're going to find someone else.
Good for you.
And helped them with some other
And they made
things.
it.
And they made it, and they're in the house and doing well.
Okay, now, so is there anything in the area that's going on right now, if anybody wanted to see one in process?
There's actually, all the ones are finished.
They're
at the
finished,
moment.
you need a family.
We need a family.
Okay.
We are looking.
Give us your ideal. The ideal, we know, would have some income. We know that, from what you'd said, that would be a family of what, at least four?
Some income that 4 would be nice. We've done more than that. It can be dual parent, single parent. It can be, as long as they've got some kind of steady income. And have shown, an ability to perform financially reasonably well, and if they're able to help put in the sweat equity, that helps. They do have to go through the financial peace course. So those are kind of some of the.
Is there any lower limit that you're looking for on who, certainly?
In terms of numbers?
Yeah, you could, if you make $80,000 a year. You don't.
I'm not sure what that number is at present, and to some degree that is also dependent on the size of the family. Because the poverty line moves according to how many people are having to feed from the same trough.
Yes.
I'm really not sure those numbers. That kind of moves with time and all. We do.
Well, we've been putting the information back up there, and we'll keep doing that. So if anybody would like to get in touch, and the address is there too, 521 State Street, right here in Quincy. I love to hear the story of the man behind the mission, so to speak.
Yes.
So you were born and raised
in Carbondale,
Illinois.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Down by St. Louis.
Yes.
And then where did you go?
I went to Southern Illinois University, then went to seminary up in Evanston, up on the shore of Lake Michigan, and I have served a variety of churches throughout central Illinois, from the Quad Cities, Peoria, here.
Just can't hold down a job.
No, I can't. I've been here for 10 years.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It is, actually. I'm very honored. It's a wonderful congregation.
That's
They've been very supportive.
They don't want you to leave.
Well, I guess not. Or else no one will take me. But no one else wants me. But I've been very honored to be the pastor there. It's a wonderful, warm church.
And give a plug again. Your church is?
Union United Methodist at 1101 State.
State Street also. And if anybody would like to get in touch with you, phone number at the church?
217-223-6062. You can email us at uumc1199@adams.net.
Whoa.
We have a website, and we have the easiest way to access that is www.qumc.org, and then you click on Union there.
QUMC.org.
Yep, and then we're also on Facebook. Just look for Union United Methodist Church of Quincy, Illinois.
Now, when you have all of these, electronic and social places now, do you find that it's easier to get volunteers? Do you ever post up there? Needs help?
We post stuff. We're doing that more and more with the Habitat site, and trying to let people know when certain things go, because it's a dynamic situation, and different skill sets are needed at different times.
That's right.
And sometimes the weather is accommodating, and sometimes it's not, or
Yes.
certain materials don't show up when expected, or they do, you know, and so we try to keep people
Sure.
up to date and informed about what's happening there.
And you mostly do, I mean, of course, your heart is if somebody in your backyard needs help, if somebody in our listening audience
Sure.
right here needs help. But also during the times of the flood and during the hurricanes and the earthquakes and all of the other things we're going to be
Yes.
seeing in these days. Tell us a little bit about Katrina.
Well, oh yes,
That was when you really helped
a few years ago, about 3 years ago, our chapter sponsored a build down in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, which is across the Delta from Bay
Pascagoula, in that area?
Yeah, across the Bay from New Orleans and
Yes.
and all that, and the community suffered a 14-foot storm surge. You know, a huge part of the city was just washed away.
Absolutely.
And we were there as part of what we call a blitz build, where we try to build multiple houses in 1 week's time, or 5 days. And we were there with some other churches, Willow Creek up in near Chicago and Barrington, and United Methodist Church in South Carolina, a large one called Apex United Methodist. They've had a lot of experience with hurricanes.
Their own in that area.
And they've made a ministry of going to other places and helping out. And there were about 150 of us, and we built 5 homes within a week. And as I was telling you before,
I just still can't imagine
recording. The first day we were there, when we got up in the morning, the sky was just black and very threatening, and we thought, oh, doggone it,
a day wasted.
Yeah, we've traveled 1,000 miles, and the others had actually traveled even further, and we thought, well, okay, we'll go out there and we'll work until the winds get too high or lightning starts to strike. Well, there was never any wind to speak of, and there was no lightning. There was just torrential rain, 13 inches of rain that day. While we were out on the site, 8 of those inches fell.
Were you building a house or an ark?
Well, we wondered. And the amazing thing was, we had a few people slip and slide in the mud, but nobody was injured. I remember, though, at one point, I was helping lift up, a roof trestle, and was holding it up while a guy up above was nailing the previous one in place. So I was holding it like this for a while, and eventually, he takes it and lifts up. And I was wearing a windbreaker, and they're supposed to be kind of waterproof. Well, this one just sort of held the water in. I put my arm down, and water shot out my sleeve like there was a faucet in there. It rained every day, pretty much, but the last day, steadily less. But people had a wonderful spirit. We had folks in their 70s saying...
At least it's warm down there, too.
People in their 70s who said they'd never been that wet that long in their lives.
They were working.
Oh, yeah. We had people of all ages. One of the touching stories was that day, I was working on something, and the local habitat director was standing next to me, and she sees this pickup truck pull up in the street, and she goes, uh-oh. I said, what? He says, he's a county official, and he always gives us a hard time. I don't know if he thought Habitat was some kind of racket or what, but he just was always giving them a hard time. And she finally, I guess I better go see what he wants. And she goes over there, and a few minutes later she comes back, and I see her, and I say, well, what did the guy want? And she said, well, it was no big deal. She says, I went over there, and he was sitting in that truck crying. I said, oh, and he says, and he rolls down the window. I said, and she says, what's wrong? And the guy says, I can't believe these people are out in this, doing this for us. And it just...
Then everybody started crying, but it was raining, so you couldn't tell.
And somebody called the local ABC affiliate in Biloxi, and they did a story about all these crazy Yankees who came down and got drenched and everything like that. The guy we were building our particular house for had quite a story. He was actually a Habitat volunteer. That was kind of what he was doing, really? Sweat equity. Shortly before Katrina, he had a stroke.
Oh, my goodness.
And he was partially paralyzed on one side. Then Katrina blew his house away, and then his wife left him. I had a buddy who said, boy, you put a dog in a pickup truck in that story, and you got a country western song.
And they listen to that.
One of the funny things that happens, these houses, they built them all up on stilts, you know, so that at least the water was a couple feet high, it wouldn't flood the place. So these houses were all up, and I was talking with the Habitat director a couple days into the build, and I said, "You are going to put a ramp in, aren't you?" And she went, "Oh!"
Oh, you've got to be kidding!
You know, somehow, they'd all thought about it, but no one had made it. So they ran and they got all the materials. And fortunately, one of the people in our group was a very experienced, very capable contractor. We called him the Admiral, and he knew all the proper dimensions and angles and the codes and everything like that. And when the day came, the day of we were finished with our work, we drove him up into the driveway, and I said, "Larry, welcome to your new home." And he said, I've waited for someone to tell me that, and we were able to roll him up the ramp and into the house.
Wow, thank you, Lord. That's all we can say, because you do this. And anybody out there, if you would like to help out with any of these projects, you may not be a carpenter, you may not be any kind of a handy person.
I'm not.
It doesn't take a handy person. It takes someone who's willing. And that's kind of what Jesus said. He said, if you see a need, there's your ministry. Whatever he places before us. And I was just reading this in 1 Samuel 2. It says, after Samuel said to Saul, "I have sinned, I violated the Lord's command." Then when Samuel was given his command, he wouldn't do anything over Saul. But once he did, and once he had to follow and knew what God said, he said, "Where I lead, I will show you what to do." That's perfect. It's Samuel 16, and it's in verse 3. You are to anoint for me the ones I indicate. And then he said, Samuel did what the Lord said. So whosoever seeth a brother hath need. If you have not compassion, how can the love of Christ dwell in you? He says, don't just love in word. Don't just say, go and be fed, go and be well, but love in truth and in deed. And Jesus said, I am the truth. Cristo le dijo, yo soy el camino y la verdad y la vida, nadie viene el Padre sino por mí. No one comes to the Father but through me. And whether you're in Mississippi or in your own backyard in Quincy, you've been everywhere. God bless your ministry, your church. Once again, it is the
Union United Methodist Church, 1101 State in Quincy.
Right here in Quincy. And I know he would love to have new members,
absolutely,
new volunteers for Habitat. There's always something you can do. Don't sit back and say, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. No, you're not.
We got people in their 80s and people in their teens who help out.
God bless you, Pastor Bob. You are an awesome man of God. Give Lee our blessing.
I will do that.
And we'll have her sometime.
Excellent.
Okay.
She's a wonderful woman.
And those of you that have maybe seen, they're building a house for Habitat, and you're thinking, well, that's got nothing to do with God. It's got everything to do with God. You can witness right while you're on the job. Amen. You can be the hands and feet of Jesus. And thank you for being with us today on the Outreach Connection. Once again, I'm Dr. Peppers, shaking the salt.
You've been watching Outreach Connection. If you would like to contact this ministry, you may write Outreach Connection, care of CTN, WTJR, 222 North 6th Street, Quincy, Illinois, 62301.
WTJR, licensed to Quincy, Illinois, maintains a public file for public inspection at our studio at 222 North 6th Street in Quincy, Illinois. Hours of our studio location, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 9 a.m. to noon on Friday.